Why does Pusha T hate Lil Wayne? This I must
This
know.
video is
Because
sponsored
Lil
by
Wayne is like my favorite
Skillshare.
rapper of all time. And Pusha T is also is top 5 for me. So why the fuck he mad at my mans?
And while they were there, they decided to create a startup in the snow shoveling business. Because the fact is, regardless of how many bricks they supposedly moved, Pusha T and Malice eventually had the good sense to leave the streets behind them and move forward into the music industry. Taking all of that experience that they had pushing dope and packaging them up in the form of slick, deep lyrics, and releasing music that were true ballads for the bando. So Pusha T and his brother Malice formed the duo
let me go grab
Clipse,
another
and in
beer
my
real
opinion,
quick
when it
before
comes
she
to
get
songs
too
about
in
drug
depth.
dealing, nobody can come close to the Clipse's penmanship. But you don't have to take my word for it, because there was one very familiar face in hip-hop that recognized the lyrical skill of these two young ex-dope dealers back in the early 90s before anybody else realized how good they were. And that person was Pharrell Williams, aka Skateboard P, aka Kermit without the green. Now, back in the late 90s, Pharrell actually managed to get the Clipse their first record deal with Elektra, leading to the recording of their first album, their intended major label debut, exclusive audio footage in 1999. However, after releasing their first single, The Funeral, to a pretty frosty reception, Elektra decided to shelve the album and the Clipse were left carrying their career in a casket. But fortunately, Pharrell could truly see the diamond in the rough that the Clipse were, so he continued to be loyal and show them support. Meanwhile, Pharrell Williams and his production partner Chad Hugo had been working together producing
been nice
absolute
forever
bangers under the name the Neptunes and beginning to make waves with their
I've
own
been to a
NERD.
Neptunes concert.
Together, they continued
Shit was
to pick
just
up
as live as you
industry
thought it
speed.
was.
And eventually, off the back of their hard work, they established
the whole concert was crowd surfing. The whole concert.
And knowing that he could see the
Shit was
potential
lit.
that nobody else could,
Not me,
Pharrell
though.
immediately
I
signed
don't trust-
the Clipse to
I
his
ain't
new
trusting
label
people.
and begun to produce banger after banger for the boys from Virginia. And even back then, Pharrell had the Midas touch, producing a wave of certified hits for the Clipse straight out the gate without even being sued by Marvin Gaye once. Their first single, Grindin', was an immediate smash, peaking at 30 on Billboard. Not bad for a highly...
When this shit dropped, yo, every kid in middle school and in they schools was doing this beat on the cafeteria little table, dog. Every single kid. And if you wasn't doing it, you just say, I'm saying you must not listen to rap. But yo, this shit was iconic, my G.
Minimal street anthem about drug dealing. And to this day, this would be the perfect time for the Clipse to drop their now iconic album, Lord Willin'. An album which came with even more iconic album artwork. Look, they've got Jesus in the back of the caddy slinging birds with them. This album was a humongous success, hitting 4 on Billboard, selling 122,000 copies first
That shit
week,
was
and
fire.
going gold within a month. But Pharrell wasn't done helping his boys win yet, not by a long shot. He then brought the Clipse to the mainstream by getting them a placement on Justin Timberlake's hit song Like I Love You, which itself went on to hit number 11 on Billboard. So what the hell does this have to do with Lil Wayne? Well, we needed all of that context so that we understood what happened next. At this point, Pusha T is intensely loyal to Pharrell Williams and owes Pharrell a massive gratitude for believing in him and getting him to the top. But before you knew it, enter Lil Wayne and Birdman.
And now, a word from us.
Now, in addition to appearing on Justin Timberlake's hit song, whilst they were at the top, the Clipse were spreading their proverbial wings like the proverbial birds they were supposedly selling, regularly collaborating with other artists, including the swaggy young boys over at Cash Money Records. Of course, run by the shiny, cue-ball-headed man worthy of everybody's respect, but
That
Charlemagne,
Birdman,
aka Baby. Of course, Birdman is no fool. He's the one who masterminded the hot streak of his crew, the Hot Boys, turning a gaggle of young New Orleans street kids into household names and spawning wildly successful solo careers for them, particularly the young stunner Lil Wayne. With Lil Wayne quickly becoming the darling of Cash Money Records, Birdman and Wayne established a very strange pseudo father and son relationship. As we all know, Birdman and Wayne were so close, sometimes they would get a little too close and have a little smooch together. Well, anyway, the first collaboration between Cash Money Records artists and the Clipse was the official remix for Grindin', which brought in extra verses from Lil Wayne and Birdman, as well as a verse from former rap legend and current podcast interrupter Noriega, or Nori, or Nor, or N-O-R-E. Guys,
Nori, nigga.
And let's not forget, this is the same year that Pharrell Williams had worked his magic and used his Midas touch to produce and feature on Nor's smash hit, Nothing, or Nothing. which had gone 10 on Billboard.
What you trying to do?
Remix and the first big public collaboration.
Yeah, that shit was fire. God damn, take me down memory road and shit.
Seemed to go pretty well. Even though for the record, Birdman's entire verse does steal Clipse's verse from the original, because the stealing of source is going to be very relevant to this story in a bit. And in Cash Money's defense on the Grinding remix, Lil Wayne's short but sweet verse is genuinely very impressive. And so with that song being a success, and it being pretty clear that Pharrell Williams and the Neptunes seemed to be able to pull a hit song out of their ass at a moment's notice, of course it made sense for Birdman to enlist the help of Pharrell and the rapping services of the Clipse for his next smash single, What Happened to That Boy, which frankly, in my opinion, is probably Birdman's best performance on a record ever. Of course, What Happened to That Boy came with a very ballerific Cash Money looking music video where we see Birdman wearing clothes so big it looks like he shrunk in the laundry. Now, What Happened to That Boy is, in my opinion, one of the hardest rap songs in history. Of course, it put Birdman's ad-lib on the map, and from there made it a pretty common trope for rappers to make funny noises in their hooks to make catchy songs. But if you saw my previous video about the contractual disputes between Birdman and Lil Wayne, then you'll know that when it comes to money, Birdman seems to have a habit of shafting literally anybody he can get away with shafting. Hell, with that bald head, he should change his name to Shaft. So many years before he would stiff his own fake son, the story goes that Birdman had shafted Pharrell Williams and the Neptunes for payment and or royalties on the What Happened to That Boy.
Of course he did.
Now, Pharrell
that
sounds
like Birdman
about this, and it's
that sounds like some Birdman shit.
Where or how Pharrell and the Neptunes got screwed by Cash
I believe
Money.
that 100%.
And some have mythologized that it was specifically an invoice that was never paid. The idea of the mythical unpaid Cash Money invoice was of course given new meaning later on in the beef between Drake and Pusha T when Drake sent Push an invoice for reviving his career. But anyway, it's generally considered a fact that Birdman stiffed Pharrell, but being the classy gent that he is, Pharrell never spoke publicly about this. But apparently from this point on, he vowed never to work with any more Cash Money artists, with Rosenberg and Ebro over at Hot 97 very helpfully pointing out that this is probably why we've never seen a Pharrell-Drake collab. Now, in an alternate universe, this would have been where the story ended. The very wise and diplomatic Pharrell Williams could have just never worked for Cash Money again, never spoken about Cash Money again, and just continued producing hot cocaine choruses for the Clipse. And everyone and their careers would have lived happily ever after. But that's not what happened. And the reason that didn't happen was a goddamn Bathing Ape hoodie.
BAPE though?
Before we go any further, let's talk about fashion. Now, as you
apes.
saw from Birdman's dreadful get-ups in the What Happened to That Boy music video, the Cash Money crew wouldn't know good fashion sense if it came up and kissed him on the lips. But beyond Birdman's big and tall section shopping ways, the rest of his roster were no different. Pre-2004, Lil Wayne's fashion sense was best described as Blood Gang meets big and tall basics. And sure, it's nice to have endless Birdman hand-me-downs, but it looks like it wasn't until Lil Wayne turned 20 that he finally learned how to wear a vest properly. Then again, after finding this picture, I'm pretty sure that's exactly how Birdman wanted Lil Wayne to wear that vest. But really though, it made sense for all those years for the... However, in a stark contrast, over on the Neptune side of the music industry, Pharrell and his homeboys were getting a reputation as being some of the waviest, drippiest dressers that the rap game had to offer. Constantly attending media appearances, rocking the latest Bathing Ape camo hoodies, billionaire boys club tees, and
BAPE was so fire, dog.
And for some reason, Pharrell also seems to have that same habit of lifting his shirt like Lil Wayne. At a certain point, it just feels like you're not even popping in the rap game unless you got your little man nips out. So apparently Pharrell meets Nego, the god of streetwear before streetwear Vibe interview, that through his connection with Pharrell Williams and Jacob the Jeweler, Nego himself connected with Pusha T and Malice of the Clipse and begun sending them boxes of BAPE clothes just because he fucks with their music. And so Bathing Ape clothes became a signature part of the Clipse and Pusha T's fashion aesthetic going forward, with Clipse even being featured as models in one of the Bathing Ape catalogs. And this is the rap game, so naturally at a certain point, other rappers begun to make like a Bathing Ape shark hoodie and got to biting Clipse and Pharrell's BAPE swag. And what do you know, in Lil Wayne's Hustler music video, he famously popped up rocking a whole bunch of BAPE. But this wasn't a one-off, it appeared very quickly that Bathing Ape also became a signature part of Lil Wayne's fashion style. He was seen with Bathing Ape on Rap City, and most famously donning a pink Bathing Ape hoodie on the cover of a 2006 issue of Vibe magazine. So in response to all of this rap game copying, Pharrell and the Clipse dropped the song Mr. Me Too, essentially sneak dissing all of these rappers that are jacking their style.
I didn't realize that was about him.
Later, a newly reformed Malice told
this
DJ
is like fucking my head
the song
up.
wasn't specifically aimed at Lil Wayne. The track was perceived by nearly everyone that heard it as a clear diss towards Lil Wayne, as it seemed that he was the most obvious culprit for copying that style. He was the one that had made BAPE cool, not Pharrell and not the Clipse. Now this was a scathing interview, with Lil Wayne dropping so much salt it looked like he was trying to de-ice Meek Mill's front porch. Even addressing the Clipse directly in this interview and ending up in a tense back and forth with the interviewer. When asked about accusations of biting from the Clipse with reference to both the bathing ape style and rapping about drug dealing. Lil Wayne essentially said that he raps about being rich, not selling coke. Not so sure about that, Wayne, and underhandedly questioned why the Clipse would need to rap about coke if they're actually rappers. But the interviewer continues to prod, which seems to annoy Wayne, who protests that he's got 5 platinum plaques, why does he need to rap about BAPEs when he's got his own clothing line coming? And then, much like Donald Trump looking directly at the sun, Wayne says that he don't see no fucking Clipse, suggesting that they were the ones that had to do a song with Birdman just to get hot. Come on, Wayne, no one really wants to do a song with Birdman. You only do a song with Birdman to stop him trying to kiss you. Anyway, Wayne goes on to double the disrespect, saying who the fuck is Pharrell, and saying he doesn't respect him. And in a final snake move, Lil Wayne says that Pharrell wore BAPE and people thought it was weird, but when Wayne wore BAPE, people thought it was cool and he made it hot. Which kind of contradicts his whole defense against being a biter, but whatever. But then he finally calls them all out for even talking about him on that record, calling them fakes for dissing him for wearing BAPE, and then essentially saying that if they come to New Orleans with that bullshit, they are getting moidered, suggesting that they're dissing him in interviews, but they are not likely to bring that energy to him in person. Now, Pusha T immediately rebuffed Lil Wayne in an interview on a Virginia radio station, saying that Wayne is a biter and that he's showing bad judgment with those comments, suggesting that Wayne is just courting beef to try and promote his new album. And Pusha later replied specifically to this interview, referencing Wayne's fake tough gangster killer talk at the end, rebuffing Weezy in a hilarious fashion.
Then by the end of the interview, he backpedals all the way and say, I don't want no beef, I don't want no problems. Beef is something serious where I'm from and I don't want that.
Shout out to the blue
and
cookies,
if that's the case and he doesn't want that, he might want to shut his fucking mouth. Because Lil Wayne ain't aggressive enough to mention myself, my brother, or any parts of this re-up gang regime in an interview where he's talking about beef, drama, killing. He did mention killing. Like how he handles beef and he will kill. And we don't believe that shit, and we know that you the fans, our fans, y'all don't believe that shit either. I mean, let's be honest. First time he touched the gun, he shot his goddamn self.
That is savage, Push.
Push it going day. That's why I fuck with that nigga. Let's go.
Now, for a brief moment, it did look like this beef was over for him.
He kissed a grown man, bro. That shit's weird.
Lil Wayne got caught in a little jam.
I mean, not necessarily, but
tour bus at a New York tour stop, and after his DNA was found on the gun, he was eventually banged to rights and shipped off to Rikers Island to serve around a year. Pusha T told Complex he didn't really see the point in dissing Wayne while he was in jail, and even congratulated Wayne on being free on the track Open Your Eyes from his Fear of God mixtape, which for the record is one of the best mixtapes in rap history. I don't care what anyone else says. Apparently at a certain point,
he says everything is one of the best things ever.
Live, where they were apparently on okay terms. But within a year of Wayne getting out of jail, the beef was hotting up once again. And to be honest, it's possible that Pusha T was just doing the honourable street beef thing and not kicking a man while he was down serving time in the slammer, but then getting right on his ass when he gets out.
I remember this shit.
The scathing diss track Exodus.
I remember this shit.
And it was of course in that track that he went at Cash Money's business practices with the now iconic line about Drake being signed to Wayne, who's signed to BAPE, who's signed to Universal, going on to say that Wayne's contract's all fucked up, impeccably predicting the beef between Wayne and BAPE that would play out publicly in the years that followed this beef, and which I've covered on this channel before. Pusha T also mocked Wayne for being a fake blood hanging around with Birdman, saying that Birdman is taking half of Wayne's money, as well as suggesting that Lil Wayne got completely stitched up by his team when he was forced to take that gun charge. A charge that, let's not forget, Pusha T mocked Wayne mercilessly for in this throwback interview.
Then when he just got caught with a gun in New York City, he ain't had no bullets in it. So we already know he not good with guns.
After the release of Exodus, Wayne swiftly responded on Twitter, saying fuck Pusha T and everybody that love him. However, Good Music label mate Kid Cudi apparently does love Pusha T, so chimed in saying fuck anybody that doesn't like Push. Anyway, Wayne's tweet was hardly robust enough to serve as an actual response to this diss. So a day later, Lil Wayne responded on Wax with his track Ghoulish, recycling that fuck Pusha T and everybody that love him line from his tweet, reiterating that he is really a blood, no really I'm a blood, honest, dropping a bunch of miscellaneous bars that didn't really have any bite to them, and then finally referencing that What Happened to That Boy song that kicked off this whole beef to begin with, saying he's gonna clap Push. Now for the record, Lil Wayne is in my top 5 rappers of all time. He has frankly done more for the rap game than the Clipse have.
He's my top one.
Contribution to hip hop in general is unparalleled. That said, this diss Ghoulish was widely considered to be hot garbage.
It was,
with many people coming out to say that it was the worst diss in hip hop history. And very quickly, the hashtag things better than Lil Wayne's Pusha T diss begun to circulate online. Contenders included Gucci's face tap, Justin Bieber's Otis Freestyle, and even the freecreditreport.com jingle. Pusha T responded to Ghoulish on Hot 97, essentially echoing what everyone else was saying at the time. It's trash!
What was your opinion of Wayne's response?
That was horrible. It was horrible.
It was trash. It wasn't great. I haven't said anything about it because I didn't think it was like good enough to respond to.
And funnily enough, following the release of his own trash diss record, Wayne even came out to say he didn't really have an issue with Push, downplaying Ghoulish as a real diss record, suggesting that it was more just his immediate reaction to hearing Exodus.
Yeah, whatever, nigga.
Which,
I don't know.
Kind of does make me want to let Lil Wayne off of this, because we all know that he is truly capable, and after getting aired out publicly by Pusha T, he probably just want to feel like he'd vented and got a response out. But no matter which way you explain it, the song was trash, and Lil Wayne essentially took an L in this beef. And
I don't know if you want to do that.
Pusha T was spiritually over, but that's just Lil Wayne's involvement, because let's not forget, Pusha T doesn't forgive, and he doesn't forget. So Pusha lifted his aim higher, looking for a bigger target than Lil Wayne, and he made his desire for a new, bigger target to beef with very clear on the track New God Flow with Kanye West. Even elaborating in an interview with Hip Hop Wired that he felt that Wayne's response on Ghoulish was so bad it wasn't even worthy of a response. And so when it came to New God Flow, Pusha T used this as an opportunity to pick on the ops standing either side of Lil Wayne, elaborating that his lines in that song were specifically aimed at Birdman because he didn't like something that he had said about good music in an interview. This was a reference to a 2012 interview with Complex, where Birdman questioned what good music had going on musically other than Kanye West. So Pusha T used his appearance on New God Flow to prod Birdman with lines like "claim they 5 stars but they sell you dreams," a reference to one of Birdman's nicknames as the 5-star stunner, and his tendency not to pay people. Elsewhere, Pusha T talks about coming on board to good music to be to Kanye what Shine was to P. Diddy back in '99, i.e. his shooter. But of course, in this case, metaphorically, shooting at Kanye and Pusha T's record label ops rather than randos in a nightclub like Shine did. At this point, metaphorically firing back at the likes of Cash Money, Birdman, Lil Wayne, and of course their new biggest star artist and emerging enemy of Kanye West, Drake. Hence the line about death coming in threes. Because here Pusha T is saying that he's got 3 enemies to finish off. Lil Wayne, who Pusha T had already taken care of, defeating him by TKO after Lil Wayne's terrible Ghoulish diss track flopped. Birdman, who kind of isn't even worth dissing anyway because his raps are at a kindergarten level to begin with. And of course, the true target, who Pusha T would really be going after, the new golden boy of Cash Money Records, Drake.
Yeah, this one.
This video is sponsored by Manscaped.
Even
playing
do this.
chess?
Man, I'm playing chess, Othello.
That's a good
backgammon.
Drizzy Drake has made it no secret how much of a Pusha T and Clipse fan he was earlier in his career. All the way back in 2009, he was telling Peter Rosenberg that his favorite albums were Kanye's Graduation and the Clipse's Lord Willin'.
Clipse Lord Willin', I used to just burn that record down. My God, I love that record.
Hell, if that wasn't enough, a young Drake famously copped a signed Pusha T microphone from eBay.
One day I was looking for like autograph stuff from Clipse because I was like a really, really big Clipse fan. This guy in Virginia that supposedly had a microphone that Pusha T used during the show. It was like plastic, but it had his autograph. I used to pretend I was doing interviews on the red carpet and perform all the Clipse songs.
This nigga Drake was a stan.
Yeah, dog, you know, I pretend to do interviews with it, rap into it, put it in my butthole.
This dude is saucy as fuck. The other day, was watching videos. This nigga had that drippy ass Gucci hat. Now he got this little whatever shirt that is. That shit fire.
Of course, Drake had already thrown his hat into the ring by sneak dissing Pusha T on the track Dreams Money Can Buy all the way back in May 2011. Without mentioning him specifically by name, Drake appears to acknowledge his past admiration for Pusha, saying that his favorite rappers either lost it or they ain't alive, and eliminating any doubt that he was going at Pusha T, with a line suggesting that the person going after him is also going after Wayne and Birdman, and then wrapping things up by clearly declaring his allegiance to Wayne and his label Young Money Cash Money, aka YMCMB, aka Young Money Cash Money Billionaires. It's gotta be done. Anyway, Petty Pusha was naturally offended by these not so sneaky disses and proceeded to diss Drake on the very same beat, dropping his own diss track called Don't Fuck With Me around 4 months later in September 2011. And in contrast to Drake just dropping 3 sneaky lines on a song that's overall about his wild success, Pusha decided instead to go line after line with accusations and put downs aimed at Drake, suggesting that Drake is a lyric stealer years before Meek Mill would do the same thing with disastrous consequences, dropping double entendres that could be interpreted as referencing Drake's lyric stealing and use of ghostwriters, as well as potentially referring to Birdman's royalty stealing business practices, something that Push elaborated on sometime later.
You know, if you steal something, then that's just corny. And like, if you steal something and you stealing it like contractually, like that's like the lowest form of a thief. It's like a cat burglar.
He mentions rappers on their sophomores thinking they're boss lords. Potentially a reference to Drake dropping his second album, Take Care, within 2 months of this diss song being released. Of course, let's not forget the fact that that original Dreams Money Can Buy track was a promo released to build hype for Drake's sophomore album. And of course, that thinking they're boss lords line fits in nicely with the fact that over the years, Drake has built a reputation for having people beaten up as part of disputes. Something he of course wore on his sleeve later on in his career with the track Mob Ties. Excellent foreshadowing here, Pusha. I mean, this is just one of the many pieces of evidence where Pusha T has so much good foresight for what was going to happen later on this beef. It kind of makes me think that he is the real rap game Terminator. I've been sent back in time to save the rap game from the Ghost Rider 2000. Push then goes on to drop another great line, which I personally love because it references one of my favorite underrated comedians. He says, Chappelle Show, all of you Neil Brennan's, sketch comedy, who was for real penning. A reference to the fact that while rarely seen on screen, Dave Chappelle's writing partner Neil Brennan wrote a huge amount of material for their infamous sketch show Chappelle Show, once again referencing Drake's need for a ghostwriter and tendency to take credit for other people's work.
Of course, Drake ain't respond because Drake can't respond
Pusha
to
T's
Pusha.
devastating diss track Exodus 23:1 hit Lil Wayne's chest harder than a double dose of Actavis on an empty stomach. But that doesn't mean Exodus didn't also include a few early prods towards Drake too. There's of course the iconic line about being signed to one guy who's signed to another guy who's signed to 3 guys, which is of course in many ways just as, if not more, disrespectful to Drake, who himself is signed to Wayne. So if Exodus was an early hint that Pusha was planning to go at Drake, it was Pusha's verse on that track New Godflow that was the declaration of war. We actually left off in the last video about Pusha and Wayne's beef in a Hip Hop Wired interview, where Pusha made it specifically clear that he was dissing Cash Money and Birdman on that track New Godflow with Kanye West. And Pusha T made it very clear in this interview that this was a direct warning to Drake, essentially saying that he is ready to step up and get involved in that proxy war that had already been bubbling between Drake and Kanye. Push said in this interview that Kanye is at a level where he shouldn't even respond to Drake, saying that he should just leave the rap game Terminator to dish out cold hard justice. I am the Pusha T 1000. Any attempt to diss good music would be met with immediate termination.
The good music hit up lyrically and shit.
Other saga. Up with a line, fuck 'em yay, I wouldn't piss on him with Graham Marinade, which I personally think is another cryptic reference to a 2010 incident where one of T.I.'s buddy allegedly pissed, that's right, pissed, on Drake at a movie theater. And after getting the R. Kelly treatment, apparently Drake ran out of the movie theater like a little bitch because he didn't want that smoke with T.I.'s boys. Not very mob-tied, is it? Pound cake, man's moving like a urinal cake out here. But hey, it's unconfirmed that that's what that line is specifically referencing. But hey, even Drake will tell you himself that Pusha T is one of the smartest.
Get the fuck out of here, dog.
Now, obviously,
Drake
this
got
violation
pissed on,
wasn't
dog.
on slide. So in September 2013, Drake drops his song Tuscan Leather. I hope he wiped the piss off his jeans before he sat on that leather. Anyway, this song seemingly contains lines pointed at Push, responding to his lyrics on Exodus and New Godflow. He says he's just as famous as his mentor, referring to his relationship with Lil Wayne, potentially inferring that Pusha T hasn't reached the heights of his mentor Kanye, then adding with reference to Lil Wayne, but that's the boss, so don't get sent for, suggesting that his loyalty is still with Wayne and that those disrespecting Wayne can catch some heat. And Drake goes on to drop several more tough guy lines, suggesting that he's not to be messed with by the likes of Push and Kanye, saying that his ops are jumping in front of bullets not meant for them, a possible warning to Pusha not to defend Kanye or he might catch a stray, and saying that he has a hot temper so the outcome of this beef will be scary for Pusha. Going on to say that people are hating on Drake for no reason, but he's about to give him a reason, and saying that his enemies are just bench players sitting around running their mouth like they think they're starter players. Perhaps suggesting that Pusha T isn't really pulling his weight musically over at good music.
Come for that nigga neck, oh my god.
Around a month after Drake's Tuscan Leather dropped in October 2013, Pusha T clapped back on the Pharrell-produced track Suicide, a track that seems clearly aimed at Drake due to the lyrics that seem to refer to his song titles like headlines, as well as inferring to the fact that Drake built his career off the back of Wayne and Baby. Push went on to drop a line suggesting that people are ganging up with his rivals to go against him, going on to say, like, I can't see the scenes that you mirror in your idol, but a pawn's only purpose is completely suicidal, seemingly suggesting that he can see Drake mirroring the situation that Pusha already had with Lil Wayne, and or suggesting that Drake will end up mirroring the contractual dispute situation that Wayne had with Birdman, a line which Pusha T later elaborated on a little more with Genius, saying that he felt the likes of Lil Wayne and Birdman were using the new blood Drake as a pawn in their existing beef.
I feel like my rivals use these youngins to do things like that, you know, and they'll use their popularity and so on and so forth. And that's why I was like, a pawn's only purpose is completely suicidal. Like, you know, I might just have to off the pawns too.
Now, this didn't get an immediate response from Drake, and so Push continued prodding Cash Money like he was trying to check a fake bill, dropping the track More Famous Than Rich at the end of 2015 on his King Push Darkest Before Dawn The Prelude album. The track itself has been interpreted as yet another sneak diss towards Drake and Wayne, with the overall suggestion of the entire song suggesting that if you're down with a label like Cash Money, they're going to end up stealing all your cash money, regardless of how famous you might end up, hence the term more famous than rich. Of course, with that in mind, Pusha T went on to drop lines referencing being paid in full, which we assume that Drake and Wayne are not since they're in business with Birdman, and of course the verses included more lines interpreted as Drake disses. Lines about songs having dances, a likely reference to Drake's iconic dance from Hotline Bling that was released the summer before this song. And Pusha T even dragged another former Young Money big cat into the beef, saying that he thought Tyga was a genius for leaving Cash Money. And Pusha T confirmed this is exactly what he meant in an annotation on Tyga.com. I mean, genius.com. He doubles down on that sentiment with lines saying why the biggest rappers in the game broke, which seems to me much more aimed at Wayne than Drake, since there's never really been any suggestion that Drake is not completely filthy rich, even in spite of him getting drafted by Birdman. The next line suggests that rap fans have been lied to by the likes of Forbes about Birdman and Lil Wayne's wealth, a line which Pusha T confirmed once again with Tyga, I mean genius. Now, not only had Lil Wayne already tapped out of this beef with Pusha T in 2013 after Ghoulish flopped, but even if he did want to respond, he couldn't, since by this point he was already beefing with Birdman about his contract and he couldn't even release music. And before Drake even had a chance to clap back with more sneak disses, Pusha T was going back to back on Drake, and not just with bars either, but in a series of very smart chess moves. Pusha T gets promoted to the president of Good Music and swiftly brings under Good Music management none other than former Cash Money artist genius Tyga. But then beyond industry backroom finesses, Pusha T then backs his beef with music. In October 2016, dropping the track HGTV, sneaking shots at Drizzy once again on a cool disjointed Mike Will Made It beat. And even though Pusha has claimed that his line in this song about jokers at the top being a simple Batman reference, I ain't buying it. I think he's referring to Drake out of the gate with this song, and he's too smart not to have realized just how that line was going to be taken. Too smart for your own good, Push. At the end of the song, he drops bars that are clearly pointed at Drake, saying the game is too far gone when the realist ain't real. Too Far Gone, of course, one of Drake's classic tapes, calling the Cash Money crew some Call of Duty Nigels because their killings ain't real. Then finally dropping another line, yet again calling Drake's pen game questionable. Yet another reference to the ghostwriting allegations that are still dogging Drake's career to this day. Push then contrasts Drake's ghostwriting ways with his own superior pen game, comparing himself to the author John Grisham, ironically something that Drake had done himself in his past career back when he did a Swagger Like Us freestyle. Push then elaborates to say that the rap game bar has been duly lowered, a direct rebuttal of Drake's line in Tuscan Leather, where he said that he sets the bar and people fall under it. With Push finishing out the track confirming that he is so top 5, once again another direct rebuttal from Drake's lines in Dreams Money Can Buy about Pusha falling out of his top 5. Frankly, a heavyweight response from Pusha, and by this point we've not heard a great deal of rebuttal from Drake. But eventually Drake stepped up to the plate and went at Push for the team, dropping a significant escalation that would lead to the fiery crescendo of this rap beef.
Drake getting killed.
In October 2016, Drake released the song Two Birds, One Stone, a track apparently directed at Pusha T and Kid Cudi, and maybe low-key Kanye too. Obviously, we know that the Drake-Kanye West Cold War has been raging on at this point, and Kid Cudi had already involved himself in the beef previously, piping up on Twitter in response to Lil Wayne, saying fuck Pusha T and anybody that love him, replying saying fuck anybody that don't like Push. However, the Drake-Kid Cudi beef, that's for another day. And for the record, with that metaphor in mind, some people have even suggested that this song is actually going after 3 people, 2 fake drug dealers, Pusha T and Meek Mill, them being the bricks, and 1 stoner being Kid Cudi, the stone. But I mean, whatever, take it how you want, because this song's most important target was Pusha T. And what could possibly be a more disrespectful birthday present for somebody that spent their entire life reliant on their reputation as an ex-drug dealer than a song casting doubt on the authenticity of that drug dealing past? So once Drake gets into it, he takes aim at Pusha directly, saying, but really it's you with all the drug dealer stories. That's gotta stop though. You made a couple chops, now you think that you chopo. If you ask me though, you ain't lying in the trunk with kilos. And lines like, this what we need to be on, but you never went live. You middleman in this shit. Boy, you were never them guys. I can tell because most of you look dead in your eyes and you'll be trying to sell that story for the rest of your lives. Hey, for once, these lyrics don't need much interpretation. He's clearly going at Pusha, doubting his dope boy credentials, which whether or not you believe it, is pretty disrespectful. Drake goes on further, suggesting that Pusha T's bank balance doesn't match his kingpin backstory. Just one final sprinkle of salt on a delicious sauteed bed of beef. Now, naturally, Pusha T does not take kindly to Drake's suggestion that he was never a real dope dealer, so he quickly replied to Drake's allegations, but not not in song form, with an excellent complex cover story. Now this was actually a really well written and genuinely interesting long form article with its main focus on the systemic incarceration of young black men, seemingly tied to Pusha T's ongoing support of Hillary Clinton's election campaign around this time, as part of his ongoing efforts to get involved with the prison reform agenda. Now I personally think that Hillary should have let Pusha T write her a few speeches, because maybe then she'd have won that beef with Trump. But anyway, in this article, Pusha T explains how him and his friends got into the dope game as kids, also inferring that when the Clipse record sales slumped in 2006, for a short period of time he even had to slip back into his old ways, playing around in the dope game, and discussing how when that manager, Anthony Geezy Gonzalez, was picked up by the feds, many of Pusha's friends went down too, even saying that that indictment specifically stated that drug money had been laundered through many legal businesses associated with Pusha T, including the Clipse's booking agency. In fact, it was these events that actually preceded Pusha's brother and partner in the Clipse, Malice, changing his name to No Malice and completely disavowing drugs and violence. Pusha ends the interview explosively rebuffing Drake's claims, once and for all in the most stern fashion possible, saying, "My past is cemented, my past happened, like slavery happened, like the Holocaust happened," and going on to suggest that Drake should be ashamed of being associated with the sentiments in the track Two Birds, One Stone, saying you cannot deny something that really happened. Now, the gravity of Pusha's words in this interview came down with the weight of an OVO tour bus full of BBWs on the way to Drake's mansion, with Pusha T ending the interview very ominously. When he's asked if he believes that Drake's lines in that song were truly directed at him, he says, "It ain't real if it's about me." Now, it's a good thing that Pusha T managed to get a bit of a response across in that complex interview after Two Birds, One Stone released. Because due to the long-winded process of Kanye West having his first mental breakdown within a couple of months of that diss dropping, combined with the fact that once Kanye did recover, his work on Pusha T's next album was plagued with delays. His third solo album was supposed to be King Push, with that previous album being the prelude to King Push, but due to so many delays, Pusha T ended up renaming this album Daytona, an obvious nod to his favorite line of Rolex watches, but also using this timepiece title as a metaphor for having the luxury of time. And considering what this album contained in regards to Drake, I wouldn't be surprised if this title was yet another coded message about the excruciatingly long period of time that it had taken Pusha to reply to Drake's diss song, which was over a year prior. Or maybe the timepiece metaphor is really referring to the amount of time that it took Pusha to come up with what ended up being the most devastating set of chess moves the rap game has ever seen. Now, Drake and Ye's beef had seemingly been called to a truce for a short period, as Drake flew out to Wyoming to take part in a reconciliatory recording session with Kanye,
doing in Wyoming,
a session that we now know ended up going a little south. But before we even get into that devastating diss track from Daytona, Infrared, a lot of people overlook the fact that Pusha T was already pre-beefing with Drake on the penultimate track of that Daytona album, What Would Meek Do? An obvious nod to Drake's other most famous op, Meek Mill, and a track which in my opinion is massively overlooked in the Drake-Pusha T beef saga, as that track starts out with a Kanye-initiated lyric trolling Drake's earlier lines about Pusha T falling out of his top 5. Kanye says, "They talking shit, Push, how do you respond?" Push says, "I'm top 5 and all of them Dylon." Dylon, of course, a reference to the famous delusional rapper from P. Diddy's reality show Making the Band.
I'm making history right now. Don't try to water me down and change my style.
Title, asking what would Meek do in the same situation as Push. Of course, in this case, Pusha is referring to Meek popping wheelies and telling the judge to put it in their mouth. I personally think that here Pusha T is really saying what would Meek do if it came to exposing Drake. And of course, we know exactly what Meek did, airing out Drake's dirty laundry on Twitter and exposing him to initiate their ill-fated beef after he found out that Drake had used a ghostwriter on their collab track, Rico. But here's where it gets deep, because in the second verse, Pusha returns that same question to Kanye. "They talking shit, Ye? How do you respond?" And Kanye says, "Poop, poopity scoop." Another obvious reference to the fact that during Kanye and Drake's beef, Kanye took the beat Lift Yourself that Drake had said he wanted to record on and decided to release it publicly with him shouting a bunch of poopity scoop gibberish over it just to troll Drake. Now this line once again seems like a very pointed diss towards Drake, perhaps placed in this song specifically by Pusha T to involve Kanye in the beef. But anyway, What Would Meek Do was the perfect setup for the 1-2 punch that Pusha was about to deliver with that final track from Daytona, Infrared. Now Infrared is so laden with obvious Drake disses that you should just go and listen to it yourself now, because it needs so little interpretation. What's really important about Infrared isn't the specific lines that Pusha is using to diss Drake, but it's the fronts on Drake's character that Pusha T is choosing to attack. And looking at this allows us to see what a smart chess move releasing Infrared was, because of the sheer amount of foreshadowing in there for what was about to come after. Firstly, Pusha accuses Drake of using ghostwriters, naming Drake's alleged ghostwriter Quentin Miller by name, leaving no room for doubt as to who exactly this track is taking aim at. Secondly, he questions Drake's blackness, referencing how Jay-Z didn't get the recognition he deserved until he sampled Annie on the track Hard Knock Life, with Push saying that he doesn't tap dance for crackers, essentially suggesting that Drake has had to betray his roots in order to go mainstream. He goes on to reiterate that he was right all along about Birdman shafting people for money, and shouted out Rick Ross for being one of the few people that had the gall to call out Birdman on his behavior, saying it pains him to see Wayne broke on tour trying to make ends meet. And then finally he rebuffs Drake's claims that Pusha T embellished his drug dealing past, saying the only rapper that sold more dope than him was Eazy-E. Now Infrared is a strong diss from Push, but the thing is here, it doesn't really cover that much new ground. The smart move here was going at Drake no more viciously than he had done in the past, but much more specifically. This was a diss that was so clearly pointed at Drake in a way that was obvious to everybody that there was no way Drake couldn't respond. Now, to his credit, Drake rode out on the metaphorical op block the very same day, coming back with an instant rebuttal, swiftly dropping his reply, the Duppy freestyle. The title Duppy being a neat little reference to the 2006 diss that British grime rapper Skepta did on Mega Man, not necessarily helping Drake with the old culture vulture allegations that Push even mentioned himself on Infrared. Drake used the majority of his airtime on this Duppy response, taking pot shots at Kanye West. This mainly being due to wanting to point out the hypocrisy of Pusha dissing Drake for using ghostwriters when Drake had literally just been in Wyoming ghostwriting for Kanye's Ye album. Even elsewhere in the song, Drake is going much harder at Kanye than he is at Pusha. For example, dissing Kanye for being jealous of Virgil Abloh. Problem here is that rather than hitting two birds with one stone, he barely grazes either of these birds to take home a single W. In this song, he barely has any lines that are scathing towards Pusha T, flipping the Infrared title, saying that Pusha T's head is now in Drake's beam, and once again referencing that beaten to death put down about Pusha T not being in his top 5 anymore, suggesting that Pusha T isn't even top 5 on his own record label, and doubling down on doubting Pusha T's street credentials, saying the real drug dealers were Pusha T's cousin and brother.
That's why Drake can't rap, bro. That's why Drake don't want no fucking smoke with Pusha.
Drake kind of takes a subtle L here, admitting that Pusha T might have sold some blow to buy sneakers and a Mercedes, but then saying that he's no Pablo Escobar. Now Drake, Pusha T never claimed to be selling blow like Escobar. He's always made it clear that he got in the dope game for fly cars and fly fashion. So at this point in the beef, Drake is really beginning to sound kind of dithering and uninformed, reaching for the same old tired lines. But it's the final line of the song that's a poetic moment where the whole Pusha T, Lil Wayne, Birdman, Cash Money beef finally becomes full circle. As Drake says, I told Weezy and Baby I'ma done him for you. Tell Ye we got an invoice coming to you. Consider him, we just sold another 20 for you. Now this is obviously a reference to the fact that Pusha T has been at Lil Wayne and Birdman's necks for around 12 years at this point. And that even after the beef, Pusha T tweeted at Drake saying send that invoice. And by God, Drake actually sent the invoice to Pusha T, posting it up on his Instagram and even tagging Push, with the invoice claiming to be for promotional assistance and career reviving. Oh boy, if only Drake knew just how much career reviving he would need in a few days' time.
Idiot. Boy,
I think hip-hop fans will always remember where they were when Pusha T released the Story of Adidon. From the moment that I saw that cover art with Drake in full blackface, I knew then Drizzy had fucked up.
Yeah,
and from the moment that you press play on that song, line after scathing line from Pusha T, each hit like another nail in Drake's coffin. And look, nobody can end Drake's career except for those young girls. He's too big to fail. But the Story of Adidon was public humiliation dialed up to 10. Disrespect that the most popular rapper in human history thought that he was completely above. So let's break it down. Pusha starts off combining that disrespectful cover art with lyrics attacking Drake's mixed race heritage. And don't forget, this is something that Pusha was teeing up for in Infrared with the lines about tap dancing for crackers. And before we get into the big huggies wearing elephant in the room, let's talk about Pusha T rebuffing that line about his fiancée Virginia Williams. As Pusha T suggests that from this line he feels like Drake talks about marriage like it's a bad thing, once again referencing Drake's father walking out on him and suggesting that Drake doesn't look after his mum. But the reason Pusha brings up Drake's dad isn't just to perpetuate an unfair stereotype, but it's actually to prod further at Drake's own complicated relationship with his race, seemingly suggesting that he parades his black father around in public, despite the fact that he walked out on Drake as a kid and betrayed him, suggesting that Drake is doing this to improve his image as a black man because, as Pusha puts it, he never felt black enough. Now, not really something that I am qualified to psychoanalyze at all, but my God, does that sound very disrespectful. And speaking of disrespect, near the end of the song, Pusha T says that Drake's day one friend and producer 40 is hunched over like he's 80 and dying, a reference to 40's ongoing battle with multiple sclerosis. Now, for the record, I just want to say it's clear that Pusha T is using this information against Drake as a diss, but I don't think there's anything here to suggest that Pusha T was wishing death on 40 or mocking his illness. It sounds more to me that if you really look at this line, Pusha is prodding Drake to say, hey, your golden boy beatmaker that makes your hits won't be here for long, and when that happens, your hit records are gonna dry up. Which, hey, in some ways is almost a little bit of an underhanded compliment to 40's beatmaking abilities. He is genuinely very good. And 40 actually responded to this line in a very classy way, simply sharing the fact that the following day after this song dropped was World MS Day. And look, I know that Drake loves to cling on to this particular line about 40 as the moment that the beef went too far and Push wished death on another man.
You know, wishing like that my friend that has an illness like dies. Like, that shit to me is just not really wavy.
Hey, come on, let's be real. All is fair in love and beef. And I personally believe that Drake's fixation on how disrespectful this particular line was is really just a flimsy tactic of trying to steer the conversation away from that devastating love triangle.
He was getting
cooked up. Of course, all that trash talk was simply window dressing
in the
motherfucker hit, which was Pusha T's supposed reveal that Drake had a secret child, naming Drake's baby mother as former French glamour model Sophie Brousseau and revealing her past as an adult film star, insulting her background and suggesting that Drake tried to clean up her image. Push goes on to suggest that Drake is being finessed on child support before truly going for the jugular and suggesting that Drake himself is an absentee father like his was, all because he won't let Sophie Brousseau and Adonis into his life. And then Push goes on to reveal Drake's son's name to the world, along with the supposed info that Drake was planning to reveal his kid to the world as part of an Adidas range called Adidon. And this came months after it was rumored that Drake was leaving his Nike deal for Adidas, but of course now we know that never happened. I mean, look, this is completely scathing stuff from the Pusha T 1000.
God damn,
I mean, has
Pusha.
anyone ever been more disrespectful in a rap beef than this? I mean, I swear there's no other way to look at it.
I've seen them
other than
Jacksonville
Pusha T
shits.
murdered Drake on. Now, before I let you go, I have a couple of theories about this beef that I've not heard many other people share. I truly believe that from the outside, while it looks like Pusha T had explosive inside information about Drake and his personal life, just like a good magician, a lot of what Pusha T actually attacked Drake on was really just based on sleight of hand maneuvers, which Drake clearly didn't see coming. And I believe that in reality, Pusha T never really had that much dirt on Drake. He was really just bluffing and playing a bad hand the entire time. Now, there's been a lot of speculation in the hip-hoposphere as to just how Pusha T got the inside information about Drake's secret love child. Drake inferred that Pusha got the information from Kanye West when he was talking with LeBron James on The Shop, of course after having famously visited Kanye's Wyoming studio around the same time that Pusha T had.
And so, you know, I was in the studio. I guess, you know, we all kind of felt a genuine vibe from it. In Wyoming, I play him March 14th. I send him a picture of my son.
Now, Pusha T rebuffed this theory when he was on the Joe Budden podcast, saying that he got the info secondhand from a woman that Drake's producer 40 had supposedly been pillow talking with.
The information came from 40. It didn't come from Kanye. 40 is sleeping with a woman who begins to, you know, he talks to her daily, 5-6 hours a day.
Oh, she must have a great personality.
Yeah, bro. With that also came the fact that Drake has a child.
Any which way you look at it, Drake has taken an L. The info had already been out there for a year, but most people didn't know this until Pusha T put it on wax in an explosive and entertaining fashion. Because the information that's just circulating on TMZ and gossip racks is essentially worthless until someone like Pusha T comes along, weaponizes it, and uses it to beat Drake half to death in front of the whole world. And in many ways, Drake and his team sealed their own fate by being so disrespectful to Sophie Brousseau back when this story was just a rumor. When Pusha drops the line, "Forget she's a porn star, let her be your world," have so much more bite when you look back at that TMZ article and realize that Drake and his team were dragging this woman because of her past in public not even that long ago. Drake brought this situation on himself by dragging an innocent and honest woman's background
and also stepping into a Lil Wayne beef that had nothing to do with him at first.
To deflect a paternity suit. Not a good look on Drake's behalf. So regardless of who,
after
how,
his
or
man
why
get
this
killed,
information
he
ended up
just
leaking to the
kept
public,
going.
Pusha T handed Drake an enormous
and he got killed too.
L just by you. Before we go any further, let's just check in and see what Ja Rule has to say about this. Okay, great. Really though, after the Story of Adidon dropped, Drake had a whole lot of explaining to do. There was the blackface picture, which wasn't such a good look. After releasing it, Pusha T tweeted to say that that image was not artwork, but a real picture, further trying to drag Drake's struggles with his self-identity. And while the response didn't immediately come from Drake, the photographer who took it began to have his comments bombarded by people referencing this beef. And while he initially defended the photos, saying that the shoot was all Drake's idea and his concept, accidental confirmation that the images were indeed genuine, he went on to elaborate that the images were supposed to be part of an art project with the aim of provoking thought around black identity. But the OVO goons probably got in touch with him and applied some pressure, because not long later, the photographer was on Twitter begging Pusha T's manager to take the pictures down, eventually succeeding in getting that original post that Pusha T had put on his Instagram taken down by a DMCA request. Meanwhile, the Jim Crow tee that Drake was wearing in this image was also under fire. Turns out that this was actually as part of a subversive clothing line started by some artists known as Two Black Guys, who also came out to support Drake, saying that the t-shirt design was a political statement. And then finally Drake even came out himself to respond, explaining that the picture was from 2007 when he was still an actor, and the project was an artistic photo shoot, and that what they were trying to do was use blackface to highlight the frustration that young black actors face when struggling to get roles in the industry. Okay, Drake. Many people didn't buy it, including Pusha T, who went and did an interview on 92.3 saying that Drake was silent on all black issues.
You are silent in all black issues, Drake. You really are. Like, you have all the platform in the world.
Facts.
You were so passionate back then? No, you weren't.
In fact, Pusha T went on a mini press run, doing numerous interviews saying that he was not expecting any reply from Drizzy Drake himself. Even going as far as to say that the story of Adidon was just the first layer, and that if Drake did want to keep going with the beef, he's got multiple layers to pull back on Drake from there.
Listen, I told you at the end of this joint, we can take this slow. I'm just peeling back the first layer.
Now look, I've done some digging. I feel like I've got a pretty good idea of what Pusha is referring to when he says that he's got other layers of dirt on Drake. But I'm not even going to get into that stuff because it's very NSFW. All I'll say is there are definitely some hints in the story of Adidon, and if you know, you know. After this disastrous diss song, we never saw any Adidas line from Drake. And of course, we now know that he ended up doubling down on his Nike deal in a big way. And Drake even mentioned that he was indeed planning on working with Adidas in his interview with Rap Radar.
At the time, I was working with Adidas, and we were toying with the idea of a name being a play off of a name, off of my son's name.
So it's unclear the extent to which Pusha T's diss track put a stink on Drake's Adidas deal, but it's highly possible that either Drake or Adidas were forced to walk away due to the bad publicity, and you can bet that Pusha T probably cost Drake a pretty penny. And hey, then again, we all know that Pusha T has his own Adidas deal, so it's not unthinkable that Drake might have made the decision that he don't want to mess with Adidas, knowing that they support the ops. And of course, one more loose end of this entire beef was Drake's supposed scathing diss track response that never came. As we discussed in the Drake vs. Kanye beef video, Drake had supposedly recorded a devilish response that many said was more aimed at Kanye than Push, with many suggesting that the song would include the suggestion that Drake had piped down Kim Kardashian. However, fortunately for Kanye and Pusha T, Drake's Houston sugar daddy J Prince crawled out the woodwork to say that he'd made an OG call and convinced Drake not to release this devastating diss. Because of course this diss song would have been so good, so devastating to the ops that, oh, they just wouldn't be able to live with themselves. Do the right thing, Drake.
You talk with Drake and you told him to no longer respond to Pusha T.
Right. Was cocked and loaded. This could have been a career-ending situation where he could serve.
Yeah,
and it
shut
also
up. Yo, with your
damaged, I think, a whole lot of livelihood where people are concerned.
Drake later actually backed up this unproven rumor on his appearance on Rap Radar, saying that he felt he was saying things in this supposed diss track that was so bad he wouldn't have wanted to hear himself saying them 2 years later.
And when I was making the record, in response, which was a real record, I know people think it's like some myth, and saying things that I don't know if in 2 years I'd want to hear myself say.
But for the record, many of the fans, myself included, and Pusha T, don't really think that Drake had that career-ending response.
No, you fucking didn't. You believe that. I don't believe that.
No, I said I believe he had recorded a record.
Ultimately, everything that happened afterwards was completely inconsequential. Drake had to hold this L. He had to. And even when Drake eventually did do that big interview on Rap Radar, he essentially said that the beef was over at the point that that song dropped, even giving credit to Pusha T for the genius chess moves that he had made to this point.
I have no desire to ever mend anything with that person. The information was too shocking. It was, like I said, it was on his part, it was a genius chess move. He obviously has no, like, you know, when it comes to me, he's not gonna have any, like, morals or respect.
I've got to give respect to Drake. At least he's not delusional.
Drake,
he can
yo,
even
he
be a
got
big enough
caught
man
it. He got caught it.
took the enormous
Hey, I can't fuck with this man.
He
killed me.
So it's not really much I can say better than Drake has a baby. He won. You know, he won off that.
Look, I know what some people are thinking. Oh, Trap Lord Ross, you're such a Drake hater.
Drake,
oh, this video is so biased, you're just making Pusha T out to be the good guy. Drake is the real MVP. He's got more slaps than the Beatles. Ree! Well, the facts are, Pusha T won this beef. He made 10 years of chess moves to get the drop in this song in hip-hop
Got the nigga the fuck out of here. Hey, Drake,
beef will probably
you thought you was nice with the pen, but you not.
in hip-hop history.
That boy
Even if
Pusha
you
T
disagree,
killed the
we've seen what
man.
Pusha T is capable of. Why do you think all the jokes in this video are directed towards Drake? I don't want to get on Pusha T's bad side, would you? I got too many skeletons in my closet for that shit. So Pusha T is and forever will be the king of rap beef, and he will remain so for the foreseeable future. And I would like to think that even Drake himself could be humble and agree, and at least in some small way be
Nigga,
grateful
he got
for the
humbled
role he
by
played
that man.
in receiving the most
Jesus.
iconic L the rap game has ever
The
seen.
most
So
iconic.
kids, the lesson of today